Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Thursday to you. And wow, here we are. Another week. We're in November. Can you even believe it? I cannot. Like, I know it's just every week I'm like, oh my God, another week's gone by. So today I'm super excited. Just absolutely delighted to be able to spend some time with our friend and colleague, Monique, and from EatLove. And you guys are going to love this topic so much today because we are going to talk more about how to modernize your nutrition business for the future. And really, the idea is we're going to share some strategies and tips to kind of take away some of the heavy lifting that you're doing probably on a regular basis, right, Monique?
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that, how to modernize things, and specifically how to help you to overcome some of those challenges that you're probably experiencing when it comes to offering client meal plans. Oh my goodness, I remember those days so very well. Ooh, it can be a lot, right? The importance of adaptive plans over static meal plans, and how to move from a transactional business model to a relational one, which I love. Tips for positioning yourself as the nutrition Sherpa that your clients need. So, Monique is the founder and CEO of EatLove out of San Francisco. And why don't we kick things off? I mean, like a million degrees after her name. very, very impressive background. So why don't we kick things off by having you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I co-founded EatLove. It's been 8 years ago now.
Oh,
Started in Washington, D.C. I had previously worked in a bipartisan capacity on the Affordable Care Act. So I had a great introduction to national health policy. And prior to that, I'm a recovering investment banker. I was a partner on Wall Street. I'm a mathematician and financial engineer by training. And so wanted to get into heaven and was just inundated with data and information in order to make trade decisions and advise my clients then, who were CEOs and CFOs. And then with my work in public policy, learned a lot about the challenges that we face with healthcare, such a large part of our economy. $1 in $5 spent in the United States is spent in healthcare.
wow.
And yet, as many of your audience will know, and yet we don't always rank very highly when it comes to some of the basic health outcomes in the developed world. So I was fascinated with nutrition early, really looked at some of the data from the healthcare perspective, and then started to think about how could we actually provide affordable, evidence-based nutrition support at scale in a way that would really help practitioners, work to the highest and best use of their license. So there's currently in the U.S. only one dietitian per 5,000 Americans. And of course, as dietitians will be required to have master's degrees in 2024, we looked at the workforce as it being a challenge, especially with more than 50% of the adult population managing a chronic disease. So that's how I ended up that, and a beloved grandmother having diabetes and being given a pamphlet and a printed meal plan and said, here, good luck to you.
The
And I thought, wait a second,
right? The
I thought there's got to be a better way.
exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was just joking. Probably she received the 1888 diet, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And in fact, she was vegetarian. So she's like, her first comment was, and she had comorbidities, and she was like, Monique, but I don't eat this way. What do I do? And then what I realized is it became a science project. It became a research project.
Okay.
And then I had another family member who's celiac. And at the end of it, they said, and it was like 3 weeks of work, pulling recipes, looking at the guidelines. And again, I'm not a dietitian. I happen to actually have the nutrition care manual underneath my bed. So as a mathematician, I understand, I've and our algorithms have looked through all the protocols, but I think when it came to actually solving her need, the current system was failing her and it was coming up really short. And so I just could compare it to what I was doing in another sector where I had so much information that was informing my decisions, right? I had cross asset class, I had historical information. I could make really good decisions based on analysis that I did not have when I was trying to support a family member.
Wow, I gotta admit, I did not know that backstory. So it sounds like that, just coupled with your experience in Washington D.C., really kind of propelled yourself into creating EatLove or founding it, right?
Yes, and I hadn't really interacted, and this is now going back more than a decade. I hadn't really interacted with dietitians up to that point. I was in rooms with leaders across government and industry, and I was hearing from nurses and doctors. In fact, I worked on a project called Using Open Innovation to Reinvent Primary Care, which I actually presented to the head of Medicare and Medicaid. And yet, nutrition is such a key part. And in that report, it called on the ability to empower individuals to make more decisions around their food. But then when you look at that and then look at only one dietitian per 5,000 Americans and how important their expertise is in really educating and holding up and supporting, I just thought there's got to be a way that can support these individuals, these professionals, and other qualified professionals to support nutrition in a more scalable way.
Absolutely. So let's delve into a little bit around, a little conversation around meal plans, shall we? Because I know
Sure.
this is really quite often just such a challenge for practitioners. And so, what would you say, like from your perspective, what would you say some of those challenges are?
I think, and again, I think having come from a place initially where 10 years ago, 15 years ago, didn't interact with a lot of dietitians, I can happily say, and other qualified health professionals, I can happily say I'm probably now 20,000 conversations later. And I would say it's a mixed relationship when it comes to meal plans. I think there's a lot of professionals we hear from that they say, okay, meal plans don't work,
Mhm.
and they don't work for the following reasons. They take too long for the practitioner to create,
Mhm.
right? Hours and hours, especially if you're looking beyond just macros and you're looking at who's eating, what meals, what kind of equipment do they have, food waste, like all the things that really go into that kind of thought. So it's how long. Are they really teaching our clients to be able to support themselves going forward? Is it a learning exercise, or are we being too prescriptive?
Mm.
And then three, my clients just end up not following them anyways.
Right.
And I would say yes, and our data has shown that we actually, over the last 8 years of EatLove, have collected tremendous amounts of data and understanding, because we were actually, excuse me, started with research grants. So even before we wrote our first line of code, we actually studied families for a year, uh,
Mhm.
and we're funded by the Kaiser Family Foundation and Blue Shield Foundation of California. And I would say to that, yes, but you're thinking about 2000, 2005. Like the world has moved on so much since then. And then, of course, it's been accelerated through the pandemic in the way that people are looking at just tell me what to eat. So in our data, 67% of the time in an initial consult, it ends with tell me what to eat. Can I have a meal plan? Can I have recipe ideas?
Mhm.
Can you tell me what to feed my family? and I just want to get on my way.
Right.
Right. And that's consistent across, because EatLove is not just in private practice. We're also in major health systems where we work with fitness companies. We work with pro sports teams. We work with medical practices. And that has been the consistent message where my patients, my clients are asking for meal plans, but they take too long. I'm not teaching them the core skills that they need, and they don't follow it anyway.
Right.
What we're saying at EatLove is we hear you and we understand, but that's a very antiquated approach, in that the technology has come a long way and the consumer has come a long way, right? I mean, through the pandemic, the relationship that folks have with the restaurants that they frequent, or their banks, or the way that they shop or they plan trips, is completely different to what they were doing in 2005. And what we're saying is it's a real opportunity for nutrition professionals to provide these services that are meeting consumers where they are, and getting that product market fit, delivering on the value that the client is looking for in a way that's going to build a long-term sustainable relationship.
Absolutely. Can you share a little bit, Monique, just for our audience who may not be familiar with EatLove? Can you tell us a little bit more about the platform?
Sure. So EatLove is an adaptive nutrition intelligence platform. It transforms manual generic meal planning into science-based, automated, personalized nutrition prescription. So you can set the prescription for your patient client up to 100 macro micronutrients. So basically, across comorbidities, we have templates that are validated for 30 of the most common conditions. And working through our AI nutritionist, we then evaluate close to 5 million dietary factors instantly to make recommendations for any eating situation. So whether they are cooking at home, whether they are going to a nearby restaurant, we're able to, whether they are grabbing freshly made food at the grocery store. And soon we will be announcing our partner for freshly prepared meals and meal kits. So that will be a first of its kind, and we're really excited about that. But it's taking this highly individualized nutrition prescription, then it's, which will be based on some trigger event, a medical diagnosis. The person is coming to you because they want to change something about their lifestyle. It could be anything from diabetes, maternal health, to Mediterranean diet, anti-inflammatory, you name it, gut health, etc. We then can create a individualized recommendation in the form of a meal feed that's available on an iOS and Android app. And with that, the end consumer can add their own recipes. They can swap in the moment. So it's really flexibility within a structure. And then we're fully integrated into Amazon, Instacart, and Walmart. So we now then have their entire shopping experience, which we know that if they check off items on their grocery list, which are, again, we're helping folks to minimize food waste. Our recipes are talking to each other, so that if you're making fish tacos one night, we know within perishability guidelines how much is going to be left over to then throw it into a soup. That impacts, not only the length of the grocery list, but also ultimately what a family's spending on food every week, at a time when that's a real big, that's a significant consideration for a lot of people.
I love it. So the practitioner goes in and sets the nutrition prescription. And then
yes,
what I like about the plan, one of the many things, is that it appears to be more, shall we say, just easier for the practitioner to actually utilize, because they're not necessarily the ones in there, creating the meal plans, right? Did I get that correct?
Yeah. So if you imagine the average person, if they're doing an in-depth meal plan and they're doing it by hand, which many people still attempt to do, it's still can take them, if they're really looking at macros and all these kinds of information, it could take them a few hours to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're creating that meal plan in real time for that individual.
Right.
And we're taking into consideration their family size. Do they like cilantro? Are they allergic to tree nuts? How do they feel about coconut milk? Do they have an Instapot? All the things that we would, if we would sit down and think, okay, here's what we're going to prepare for next week.
Mm-hmm.
We've learned that in our last 8 years of working with so many hundreds of thousands of people now about what are the considerations they put into what they're going to eat for the week. We've automated between 95 and 97% of that. And it's really then opens up the practitioner to be able to provide what we hear is what they really want to provide, which is guidance, motivational interviewing, support. And that's what we mean by being the nutrition Sherpa, rather than spending all of this time trying to crunch numbers, which in many ways technology can do better, faster, and in more in depth, and without making, humans, anytime we're crunching numbers, we can make mistakes. I've certainly seen it on my side. And so how do you do that? And in addition, to be able to provide the support and education and actually continually inspiration about what you could actually eat, rather than showing folks what they can't eat.
Love that. Focusing on what they can eat. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Do you want Korean barbecue, or do you want more of an exchange meal that's like chicken, rice, and broccoli? We have nearly 7,000 dietitian approved recipes.
Mm-hmm.
And what we learned really early on was that the average recipe that you would just get on the internet doesn't even have one serving of vegetables. So they're not going to meet any of the nutrition guidelines. So we have some external partners like Bobby Flay, and we have recipes from some of the chefs at the New York Times. But we actually had to spend over the last 8 years actually creating those recipes in our culinary kitchen. And so in order to be able to meet all of those guidelines, and then as I mentioned, people love to edit the recipes. They love to add their own recipes. Again, they're learning how to meal plan for themselves. It's not a highly prescriptive, eat this at this time in this way, because this is where I think you get the pushback of folks saying, okay, this is my lifestyle. I'm very protective of it. And I want to find a solution that fits within, right, my priorities and my schedule and my routine.
Absolutely. So what would you say in terms of, how it differs, how the EatLove platform then as compared to some of those static meal plans?
Well, we have the ability on our platform to print, and I think that that's certainly applicable to some folks. One of the interesting data points is we work with a very large fitness company, and we were looking at the age and the demographics, and we realized that we had as many 65-year-olds as 25-year-olds on the platform. And I think that was actually that once the app was downloaded and they found something that the individual found something they wanted to eat or to prepare with their family, they actually interacted with the grocery list and food delivery, so that when we asked them 3 years later, why are you still using the technology? What is it? Like, we're curious, like what is the part of it that you find most helpful? And the feedback we get is, my partner now does the grocery shopping because there's a grocery list. I can add cat litter and toilet paper to the grocery list. I can manage a pantry and it just gets delivered. Or again, my kids now chop vegetables. I've been able to get them interacting with the recipes. I get my 12-year-old does all the meal planning, and I'm the one that does the shopping. And I don't have to think about it, but I know and I feel confident that as I'm putting in my own meals, what a healthy plate looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when you ask how are we different, I just think it's solving the problem of the customer today. The customer today, and what we've seen accelerated through the pandemic in all the sectors that we work in, right? Health, fitness, and wellness, shows that the end consumer, and McKinsey did an outstanding report on this, if anyone is interested, about how businesses have to be putting personalization front and center for all of the services they provide. And I think printed meal plans, even the ones that EatLove create, are really great for an in-the-moment education and an example. But really, when you're into the shopping routine and soccer practice went a little bit late tonight, and I've got to find something at a restaurant on the way home, that's when the magic happens, because you're no longer being a meal planning service. You're actually being the operating system for the 200 decisions that your patients and clients are making every day.
I love
And so what we find is that what used to be, I'm going to sell a meal plan, right? Like, I'm going to sell like a meal plan, or I'm going to get, has now become, I have a service that I offer you, and you can decide as the practitioner how self-serve, because you talked about, like, as a dietitian or as a health professional, to be able to onboard a patient. We have already all of the validated templates. So you could actually set up a patient. And in fact, EatLove lets you do this. We have 2 free forever clients. So you can sign up to EatLove on Pro, and your first 2 clients are free. You don't need to become a full member. Is that the ability to say, okay, I'm going to set you up, I'm going to set a nutrition prescription, or you can use the default templates, which are validated, right? We had a minimum of 5 dietitians in academic medical centers, in addition to validating, and you can look at our resource page where all of our data comes from, is that then they have access to the service, which you now could include as part of, and you and I have done some great webinars on this, membership programs, so reoccurring revenue. How do we stop professionals from charging simply for their time, rather than actually scaling their business so that they're earning revenue when they're sleeping, right? That's what keeps me up at night. Like, how do we take, if there's 1 dietitian per 5,000 Americans, how can we enable dietitians to support not 20, not 40, but hundreds of individuals at different points of their life, in a way that's going to be profitable for the health professional and transformational for the end client?
Scaling. Right?
You have to scale, and it's like the equivalent would be, I'm looking to book a hotel for a weekend away. Do I have to like call everyone and say, how much is this room? Or can I actually look on my own time, which happened to be after midnight, see what I want to be able, like, put in what I think I want. I don't really know yet what I want, and actually have all of the options provided. It doesn't make sense that every single touch point that I really want to do, and that I, as the end user, want to own and have my own agency, there needs to be an individual there at every time of the day in order to do that for me.
Absolutely. How do these adaptive plans then impact behavior change?
Yes. So we have seen, like, oh gosh, I've interviewed quite a few end users in my time, and I get a lot of feedback. I would say some of the consistent trends have been, I realize that I have some power, and I realize that this idea of everything in moderation, and I think that's another point, everything in moderation by definition means that it has to be within context, right? Because otherwise you don't know what in moderation means.
True.
And so the idea that no food is off the table, there's no such thing as good foods or bad food, I can actually make things work within my day, and I can think and follow my internal, body cues, and I can, excuse me, and I can say, is this going to fit? I now can do that because I'm having, I can swap out, or I can change something, or I can add something, and I've got the convenience of adding it so my other family members can actually contribute to the meal that we're going to put on the table. So we hear things like, excuse me, we hear things like, I'm not afraid of food anymore, or I like celery. That was one that I realized my mother was making Brussels sprouts, and cooking them to death. So it's I think a core, as we say at EatLove, core value of who we are is that we believe food should bring you joy, regardless of your dietary requirements. Like, food is just a wonderful thing to share with people you care about in love in a way that no other activity. And there's been data around to show this in terms of the connection when you sit down. So for EatLove, if we can make that easier and we can help align the individual for their health and wellness goals and save the dietitian a tremendous, or the practitioner a tremendous amount of time and stress, and doing things they enjoy doing that they think is going to be more supportive for their client, their patient, then that's a win-win for us.
Absolutely. So, so I'm thinking about some of my clients and people in my audience who are doing group programs. Just as an example, like they really are moving into more of a scalable model.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about how EatLove would be advantageous in that setting?
Sure.
Right?
And I would be amiss not to say some of our highly successful partners have all been students of yours. So I've really appreciated all the referrals over the years, but I think just teaching them and understanding and honing in on what their niches and the ability to break it down, and here are the steps, and here's how you figure out what who you are and what you want to be. I can always identify when I interview. I'm like, have you worked with Lesli?
Really? I love that. That's so great.
I can see your fairy dust, and you as the leader of those discussions, but also the really vibrant groups and the peer-to-peer support. I think that's the other thing, just to state, which is really important, is when you've been doing this a long time and you've been working with folks and practitioners, professionals, to try to scale their business, you start to see what works.
Yeah.
And I think you help people and you help yourself. We're always learning at EatLove, right? We're always seeing new innovations, and these groups teach us, a lot about what's possible and what's been tried. And you help to get to those breakthrough moments faster. So I really do encourage that peer-to-peer support and testing and innovating and refining. So your question about group programs is really important. We see a lot of that actually in our wellness and our fitness partnerships, and across, again, for different, whether it's gut health, whether it's diabetes prevention, managing blood sugar, pregnancy. There's a whole list. And I think is you're taking step by step. So you have a dietitian might have a group. I've seen, 5 people, and I've seen a couple hundred people in these groups, where, depending on how they've structured it, if they've structured it with an onboarding, or if they've structured it where they've done everything in terms of group education. One of the helpful things about EatLove is everything you can do on the platform, there's a video about it in our toolkit for both the practitioner and the end user. And so they may onboard 100 people at a time. They may have created some coursework, but they're providing those tools. They're providing access to meal planning. They're looking at food logs, depending. So I see food logs being reviewed, probably up to 80 or so, even 80 or so. And a good rule of thumb is I see between 20 and 30 clients manage between an hour and an hour and a half a week. Right. And so, and they're doing that because they may have one-on-one separately, or, and this is an important element, they may be working on a maintenance program. So you have some where if they have a large enough community to start with, they'll start with a group program. And then in the group program, some of those members will opt into one-on-one. So they sell one-on-one that way. If they're just starting out, and you and I have had a lot of conversations about the signature program, they start with the signature program and then they graduate them into these accountability programs, right? And those accountability programs, we see folks charging anything from, gosh, $49, $79 up to $129 a month. And it will depend if they are also, they're offering EatLove. Are they also offering reviews of a food log? One of the features that we just released, it was in beta over the summer, is an AI-enabled label reader, so that not only can you use a barcode scanner to scan your foods if you're an end user, but now you can take a picture of the label, AI will read it and automatically scan it, making food logging more easier for the end user. And another feature that we, with the help of a lot of our dietitian partners, is automated nutrition analysis. So you can actually see when you're logging where your nutrients coming from. And I think we probably had it out about 24 hours before dietitians and practitioners were including as part of their accountability programs and then charging for it. And that's something that when your client is logging food, it may take 30 seconds for a practitioner to do. That would have been hours. There's another example of where technology has streamlined that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, because one of the, I think, inherent concerns would potentially be the time required to onboard.
Yeah.
Right? So tell us a little bit about that, because I do know there's people listening today that are contemplating using EatLove for their group programs. And I get the sense that, might be a concern or question.
Sure. So I think one point to say on that is just the data. We have one partner in 80 locations and 200,000 people. And we have built out all of the extensive videos of how to.
Awesome.
And so that is there for, and sometimes you'll have a practitioner actually send a specific video. And there we have full onboarding videos to do that. So you can set a highly personalized nutrition prescription, right? That's your one-on-one signature program. Again, comorbidities down to 100 macro micronutrients, right? Super powerful engine. You can also select one of our 30 templates across all of our health conditions. That's another way. And then the individual can go in and actually personalize it. What kind of milk do you drink? What kind of cuisine do you like? How often are you shopping for your food waste algorithms, right? How many, do you have a child or a preteen? You can let the end user, and they do, and they may even change that week to week. They have people visiting, they just got an Instapot, they want to try being vegetarian one week, they change their mind. And so they can do that. Or, and this was actually a direct request of our partners, they can put name, email address, save an invite, and the individual can do all the onboarding themselves.
Okay.
Really we built it for the flexibility of the practitioner based on the feedback. One of the benefit of working with thousands of dietitians now is that they are very open about telling us what they need in order to make their programs as successful as they can be. And we've developed this wonderful collaborative relationship. And I would say, gosh, probably 98% of our features have directly come from those conversations.
Okay. Yeah, amazing. So it's really not a big ordeal at all. It
No,
sounds like
and in fact, I would say I've seen dietitians or other practitioners come to us and say, I don't really like sales. I don't really like talking money with my
yeah.
clients, but I bundled this into a package. I'm able to add this much more to EatLove. And then we talk to them 3 months, 6 months, 12 months later, because that's usually the type of programs they're offering: 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months.
Mhm.
Some jump straight to 12 months. A lot of our enterprise partners, we work in high-end luxury resorts, they'll
Mhm.
go straight to 12 months. And in those cases, we look back and we say, wow, you've made an extra $10,000 a year. You've made an extra, 40, 50, over 100,000, all from offering these programs. And what I would say is I see this in our enterprise partners.
Mhm.
Absolutely, the small private practices can do that too,
Right.
right? If for their niches. And so we've spent a lot of time from our enterprise relationships actually making those tools available to our private practice. Because one thing I learned by working in Washington and in public policy is that small businesses are such an engine of our economic growth as a country. So I think it's really important that these smaller businesses have access to the same tools.
Mhm. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about how practitioners can go kind of from like a transitional or transactional type of business model to a more relational type of model, right? Where it's, more supportive, kind of more the growth mindset.
Yes. And so we've talked about this data point before, but I think it's really important to repeat. So in both public and private data, the average client sees a dietitian or a qualified nutrition professional 1.68 to 2.2 times
Oh my gosh. I
for
see
that
that
episode.
in my mind. Can you repeat
Total.
that? Repeat those numbers. Seriously,
Oh my
guys.
mind too.
Crazy.
Average person in public, and then consistent with our private data when we first started looking at different partners, again, this is part of our initial research, is that the average person sees their nutrition professional 1.68 to 2.2 times. Now, if you think about any other business in any other sector, about where they're generating reoccurring revenue and growing month to month, year to year, is around retention and repeat business.
Right. That's where the opportunity is.
That's where the opportunity is. It's much easier to keep a client than it is to find a client. And I would add to that, now with the costs of actually acquiring clients, if you're using social media, even regular, old-fashioned marketing is becoming more expensive.
Mhm.
It really shines a light on actually retaining and providing value to the customer that you have.
Mhm.
Now, when you dive into that research, what I found really enlightening was when the patient viewed that individual, their practitioner, as a food expert,
Mhm.
they were more likely to see them once, even when they had insurance benefits. But when they actually saw that professional as a nutrition therapist,
Mhm.
they were able to think, okay, it's not just about you sharing your expertise with me as an individual and telling me what to eat and what to do. It's actually helping me, which is the really hard part, right? Incorporating that information in our everyday life and actually navigating the highs and the lows and what we call the valley of despair, actually the behavior change journey.
Yeah.
And that was really important to us at EatLove because we said, okay, wait a second. How do we develop that relationship and support the practitioner to extend that from, again, if you think 67% of the time, the client, the patient is asking for a meal plan or what should I eat? How are we transitioning that conversation into, okay, let's start here. Let's think about SMART goals. Let's think about navigating problem solving. That's where we hear, at least at EatLove, what we hear is where dietitians and nutritionists and health professionals want to be, versus being perceived as, the food police.
Right.
And really being able to say, no, I'm a guide. I'm going to inspire and help my clients to realize their full potential. And in doing that, if you're helping and supporting, at the end of the day, EatLove as a nutrition intelligence platform is a tool. And working with a professional, it's like you're building a house together and you're saying, okay, I would like the upstairs bathroom to be that color blue. Well, as much as you can be specific, think of SMART goals, right? Specific, in the moment, time sense, everything. You're going to be able to say, oh, were you starving after breakfast? Maybe we need to add more protein to it, or fiber. How did you feel about that? You can be far more specific to give the right information at the right time. And if you're working on a group basis, we see that where practitioners have an online community where, again, I go back to that peer-to-peer. It's not just professional peer-to-peer. And being able to share, like, this is how I approached this. This is what worked for me. And you really see the learning happening and the value that practitioner is bringing to their clients. And people will pay for that, and they will stay, and they will engage, and they will continue to add to their skills, whether it's cooking, whether it's even shopping, whether it's learning how to delegate within their own family. Because let's face it, it takes a lot to put, a meal on the table with how busy everybody is.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. So, so how would you suggest that our audience, our health practitioners and dietitians, can position themselves? We promised to share a little bit about positioning to help them to become that nutrition Sherpa that clients are really desiring and looking for. What would you say about that?
I would say it also starts with telling your prospective audience, your prospective customers, what they're going to achieve by working with you. And really putting it within the frame of they're the hero in their own story, right? And you're going back to this being a nutrition Sherpa or the nutrition therapist or the guide. You're going to help them realize their full potential. But guess what? They're going to have to do some of the work. And they're going, and you're finding them at a time, again, I'm thinking of the motivational interview and change conversation, that you're finding them at a time that they're ready to do that. And so I think starting with, and I think you do a great job of this, Lesli, in your training, with your clients, is to be able to say, by working with me, you're going to be able to do this, 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 and this. And I think it's put a healthy meal on the table without being stressed out, that's going to meet all of your health needs. Get your family members involved in a way that you don't feel like you're doing it on your own. Learning how to shop, learning how to run a pantry, learning how to eat in a way that it's gonna keep your energy levels up. You're not gonna have these crashes in the afternoon. You're gonna start to feel better. You're gonna start to be able to recognize your own internal cues. I think just really framing it for who you are, the niche you are trying to serve, and to be able to give some this is what you're going to get out of this. This is what you're going to be able to do. I'm going to help you to do it. I provide you with the tools, and I curate. And, in that nutrition prescription, because we, believe, again, in scope of practice and who's able to set those nutrition prescriptions, I'm going to be able to really hone in and help you to unlock some of those health questions that you have to be able to live to your full potential. And that's a much different conversation.
Right?
I'm going to hand you this piece of paper, and you know what? All the answers are here. I don't know. I remember I had one like that, and I was like, okay, but what if I don't have a Trader Joe's near me? Right? Although on EatLove, we have lots of Trader Joe's because we know how popular it is. But we have all of their products on our platform. But just the idea of, I mean, I think it's important that you're supporting folks, whether they're eating an Amy's burrito and a cup of broccoli, whether they're ordering a meal kit from their favorite provider, whether they're going to a national chain that they want to see what's like close by in their community, or if they're cooking a meal at home. It's about the individual and what they need. And I think that really enhances the product market fit for the practitioner in a way that you could imagine. Changing body composition takes months and months to do. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something where people, learn a skill tomorrow. That's the kind of relationship that we're trying to foster with the thousands of practitioners that work with us. And again, if there's only one dietitian per 5,000 Americans, the opportunity is so great for them to be able to support and generate more revenue than they otherwise would not have been able to do. It's like there's a choice between generic and personalization and scale. And I'm saying that that's a false choice, and that the technology, even what we're building now at EatLove, 2 years ago, we didn't even think was on the horizon.
Amazing. You guys just keep improving the platform. Every time I turn around, it's like some major
really big announcements coming, and we're super excited. And I thank all of the dietitians, the physicians. We work with a lot of physicians, the health practitioners who believed in us 8 years ago when we were told by so many smart people that what we were trying to build was like virtually impossible. And I just remember having our testing evenings with like a whole room of dietitians saying, I like this, I don't like this, you should do this. And our product people and our team, I mean, the team at EatLove is amazing, is behind them taking notes. And I think it's just a testament that dietetics and nutrition services generally are changing dramatically. And I just think like it's the opportunity. The pandemic has only accelerated the needs and wants of the consumer to meet them in a physical space, in a digital space, but most importantly, in their own environment, in what their lifestyle is dictating that they want.
Definitely. So as we start to wrap up, what would you recommend as a next step?
Well, I would encourage, firstly, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and chat with you. I really appreciate it. I sometimes I'll actually have like, I'll step in for one of my colleagues and do support calls with dietitians, and I feel like, and other providers, and I feel like I've got to see everybody's life move on over the last 8 years. And EatLove is a CDR accredited organization, so we do provide CEUs. So I would say, firstly, keep an eye out for our webinars. We have a webinar coming up on November 10th. So if you're interested in that, I would just email support@eatlove.is, and I'll make sure you get an invite. And I will be joined by the fantastic Alexandra Zozos, who was a super user of EatLove. She actually launched her practice in the pandemic. She right from the get-go, and then she's now lead of customer success at EatLove, and knows ins and outs with her own membership programs. So she's a fabulous resource and wonderful person. So I would either that, and then I would just actually set up a free account on EatLove if you haven't already. And we offer 2 clients free forever, and it's free basic. So it doesn't have every single feature, but you'll definitely get a sense of just the robustness of the engine and the technology that we offer.
Mhm.
And then if you had tried EatLove years ago and it's been a while, like come back. You can still access your 2 free clients forever. And you might want to set yourself up as a test client just so you can download the app and then actually see it in real time for yourself. And, you know, it's that moment where as soon as someone sees its minimum packet, like the nutrition prescription is in their grocery cart,
Yeah.
and they can check off, and it's like we have over 300,000 branded food items, again, like nearly 10,000 restaurant meals. Once they do that and they're like, wow, okay, now I get it. This is so much easier. Like the healthier choice becomes the easier choice. So I would just come check out the platform, participate in one of our webinars. Our full members have access to a private Facebook group where we have lots of conversations around this very topic. And we're constantly iterating and constantly innovating and improving.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely, guys. I love that you added that feature of being able to have 2 free members on the platform.
Yes,
So
yes.
that,
Thank our better product for that.
that
She was very much like, I want everyone to see this.
yeah,
And that was my other point. We have over a 90% renewal rate of all of our partners and 100% renewal rate of our health systems. So
wow.
that's another thing to note about EatLove. When you're in the community and you're getting our free CEUs, you're getting support, you're getting access to the platform, it's a relationship that lasts years. And that's important. Like we're building something from the ground up, and we wouldn't be able to do it without all of our partners just sharing with us the challenges that they have, so that we on the product side can go away and actually see, okay, how do we solve this for them and their client in a way that's going to help retention, and it's going to drive revenue and earn money when you're sleeping.
That's what we want. Raise your hand. That's what I hear all the time. What's your goal? I want to make money while I'm sleeping.
That's what we think of every single day. How do we do that? And then how do we help people and make these services accessible and affordable for all Americans?
All right. All right. Well, I got to say, time flies.
Time flies.
What
I want you to come back out to San Francisco.
Yes, I am way overdue.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm going to make that happen. So I'm way overdue. I'd love to reconnect with you in person.
Yes.
And yeah, we gotta catch up for sure. So, all right, guys. So thank you so very much for joining me today. Thank you, Monique. I really appreciate the opportunity to catch up and learn more about the platform EatLove. And again, guys, if you have not opened your account, get moving. I mean, really, 2 free people on the platform.
Oh, yeah, we have ones that come back and they're like, I made $500, and I like in their first like 2 months. And so don't be shy. And if you have questions, we're here to help. And again, we love chatting with people. So come on over.
Yep, do it. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you all next week. Bye, Monique.
Bye. Thank you.
We got to catch up soon. All right.
Absolutely. Be well, everyone. Thank you.